If you're considering taking a cruise from the Galveston Cruise Port in 2027, this is the video for you. I'm going to give you an overview of which cruise lines are in Galveston year-round, which ones are here seasonally, which has been discontinued, and I'm going to share a little bit about the itineraries to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to plan your next family cruise from Galveston. First, let me share with you the website that I think is the most helpful and convenient for not only planning your cruises, but getting a lot of information about the Galveston Cruise Port, such as parking, cruise port maps, various hotels and restaurants that are nearby the cruise port. Come to my computer and let's check that out. One of the things that makes planning a cruise for next year, 2027, out of Galveston a little bit challenging is that there are different versions of information available on different sites. The other thing that's a challenge is that the cruise lines will plan for certain ships to be in Galveston and then change those plans, and now those ships are being replaced by other ships. Another issue when leaving from Galveston is that a lot of the itineraries seem to go to the exact same port stops. So what I'm going to advise you is, if you are interested in taking a particular cruise from Galveston, do your research about those itineraries, the ships, and the cruise lines, because even though you might be watching this video, by the time I finish making it and post it, something may have changed. So let me go to my notes and let's get started. The first thing is, although on all of the websites, it says that Princess Cruises are leaving from Galveston, and last time we left out of Galveston, there was a Princess cruise ship leaving. However, as of yesterday, when I looked this up, the Princess Cruise Line news information says that Princess is no longer leaving from Galveston. So unless they change their mind about that, you can take Princess off the list. Now let's go over those cruise lines that are in Galveston seasonally, and then I'm going to talk about those cruise lines that have ships leaving from Galveston year-round. Let's talk about Norwegian Cruise Line first. Norwegian has one ship usually leaving from Galveston, and they will rotate which ship that is. So for 2027, that's going to be the Norwegian Viva. This is a seasonal cruise out of Galveston that starts usually in October or November and then lasts until April or maybe the beginning of May. And that's typical for Norwegian, where they will cycle a different ship that will be in Galveston during the winter season. So the Viva is going to be offering 7-night cruises, and those are going to be going to the typical port stops for cruises leaving Galveston: Cozumel, Mexico, Roatan, Honduras, There's one, Harvest Caye, Belize, which not every cruise ship goes there. And then Costa Maya, Mexico is another regular cruise stop for ships leaving Galveston generally. Now, what's interesting is that also available on the Norwegian site was information that the Norwegian Escape is going to be the cruise ship planned to leave from Galveston starting in November of 2027, lasting until April of 2028 for that winter season. Now, there I see there's a 9-night sailing available that is leaving from Galveston, stopping in Cozumel, Mexico, Grand Cayman, Falmouth, Jamaica, Belize, and Costa Maya. Now, that's something where if you're interested in going to places besides Cozumel, Honduras, and Costa Maya, it does actually pay off to read the specifics of each itinerary, because occasionally there will be boats that'll go into the Bahamas and Caribbean area as well as Mexico. Oh, another thing to add about Norwegian. So I noticed that in 2026 in January, there were 2 sailings offered, and those were 14-day sailings. Now, I didn't see those listed yet for January of 2027, but I'm just bringing that up in case you would want to check regularly if you're interested in a longer sailing than a 9-day. These 2 14-day sailings stopped in St. Thomas, USVI, St. John, Antigua, Phillipsburg, St. Martin, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, Cozumel, Mexico, and then Great Stirrup Cay, which is a Norwegian cruise line private island. Every cruise line has got one of those. So that's just a tip in case you want to look for those. The next cruise line that is there seasonally is Disney. So Disney is a cruise line that also I found there was so much conflicting information, but generally the one thing that was consistent is that Disney leaves from Galveston seasonally, and just like Norwegian, the season starts in the late fall, winter of 2026 and lasts until April, May-ish of 2027. And then there's another season that starts in the fall of 2027. So far, the ship that's listed there for the 2027 season is the Disney Magic. Now, the Disney Magic will be offering 4- and 5-night cruises out of Galveston, stopping at the usual places like Cozumel and Costa Maya. But for Disney, I also see a stop called Progreso, Mexico, which I haven't seen on any of the other cruise lines. I'm not sure where that is, but it says Progreso, Mexico. Also on Disney, I see a 14-day cruise offered that is a one-way repositioning Panama Canal cruise. So if you're interested in something like that, I would definitely check out Disney's website. Disney is also offering 7-night cruises that include the Bahamas and Nassau, as well as the usual Cozumel, Mexico stops. So that's another example of a cruise line that if you're interested in going to the Bahamas and that part of the Caribbean, you can do that on Disney Cruise Line. Now, Disney also offers these Marvel Days at Sea, which you have to check out to see what that is. So if you enjoy that kind of thing and your kids would enjoy it, I definitely recommend checking out the Disney Cruise Line. However, like I said, Disney has one ship, it's there for the season, and then that's it. Another cruise line that I noticed was listed in the cruise port website showing up seasonally, but didn't show up on some other internet searches, is the Regent 7 Seas Splendor. That is a luxury cruise line that is on the schedule to leave from Galveston seasonally in the late fall through spring of 2027. And that's one ship, the Regent 7 Seas Splendor. Let's get into the cruise lines that offer cruises year-round from the Port of Galveston. The first one I'm going to mention is MSC. And that's relatively new, I think, as of the last 2 years that MSC has a ship leaving from Galveston. This is particularly easy to bring up first because it's the same ship, the MSC Seascape. It's the same thing leaving from Galveston, a 7-night cruise all year round, Cozumel, Honduras, Costa Maya. So that's pretty easy to, track and keep track of. Now let's talk about Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean generally will have 2 cruise ships sailing out of Galveston at all times. Now, their rotation isn't the strict November through April rotation that the Disney and Norwegian lines have. Some of it is and some of it isn't. For example, the Allure of the Seas was here at Galveston through April of 2026 and was replaced by Symphony of the Seas. However, Mariner of the Seas has been sailing from Galveston since last year in 2025. So right now in May of 2026, you have Symphony of the Seas and Mariner of the Seas. However, Mariner of the Seas will be replaced by Liberty of the Seas later on this year, October, November-ish. So for the latter half of 2026, you will have Symphony and Liberty. At the beginning of 2027, you will also be able to sail on Liberty of the Seas and Symphony of the Seas out of Galveston. However, in August of 2027, Symphony of the Seas will go back to Florida, and then Icon of the Seas will come from Florida, and starting in August 2027, Icon of the Seas will then leave from Galveston for the remainder of 2027, going into 2028. Now, what's unknown right now is whether Liberty of the Seas will then finish out its season in Galveston in October and be replaced by some other Royal Caribbean ship. Regarding the itinerary, the Royal Caribbean ships generally will have 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7, and 8-night cruises leaving Galveston. The difference is sometimes they will also go to the Western Caribbean and go to the Bahamas as well as Perfect Day, Coco Cay. But generally those cruises will go to Cozumel, Costa Maya, and sometimes Honduras. When stopping in Cozumel, they may also stop at the Perfect Day Cozumel, the Royal Caribbean featured resort location. Newsflash, in the time it took me to record and then post this video, I found out that Perfect Day Cozumel is off the table. That's right. I looked it up and it looks like Royal Caribbean's Perfect Day Cozumel plans fell through, so keep looking at the news to find out if this project gets back on track. Last but not least, let's talk about Carnival Cruises. Carnival has the largest presence at the Galveston cruise port. Carnival will have 3 to 4 ships sailing from Galveston at all times. What it looks like to me is they will have 2 ships that will home port there year-round. Right now, I believe those are the Carnival Breeze and Jubilee. But then there'll be other cruise ships which will be there for about a year, such as the Carnival Dream, which is going to continue to sail out of Galveston through May of 2027, when it'll then go to New Orleans. The Carnival Miracle will continue to have sailings out of Galveston through April of 2027. In May of 2027, the Carnival Horizon will start cruises out of Galveston, and then later in November 2027, the Carnival Sunshine is currently scheduled to start cruising out of Galveston. Now, here is where going back to that map is going to be critical for Carnival because of so many overlapping and switching in and out schedules of their cruise ships. Also, some of the information I found online said the Carnival Spirit was going to start in Galveston in the fall of 2027. However, later information said that the Sunshine would then replace the Carnival Spirit. So it's always good to check directly with the cruise line, even if you are checking that Port of Galveston calendar I showed you, because you really need to be sure what's what. And cruise lines do change their itineraries of which ship is starting and going where. Another thing about Carnival is because they have the largest footprint leaving Galveston, they also offer the widest array of itineraries. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10-day cruises leaving from Galveston, covering that same Mexico, Honduras, Belize cruise port circuit, but some of them also will cover the Western Caribbean. And they also have a 10-day cruise that I saw, which is the last sailing of the Carnival Miracle, which is going to go through the Panama Canal on a repositioning cruise. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more content about cruising and traveling, and subscribe to our channel if you're interested to see us continue to turn our new construction house into a home. As my husband Mo would say, as always, be peaceful, stay prayerful, and count your blessings.